university campuses and being conservative definitely makes you feel like a minority.
Well, there's definitely a prevailing campus culture of hostility towards non-left views.
The policies that the current government has imposed on us to deal with COVID have actually not been scientifically backed.
The guy who's done blackface 4 times shouldn't be the guy championing against racism.
Hey guys, we can do a quick photo, but we really don't have a lot of time.
Well, he's asking a question, and so did the guy before him and the guy before him.
I'm a voter as well.
The central bank's only role should be to keep inflation low and the financial system stable.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to smile for the camera as well. Drea Humphrey on the campaign trail for the Conservative Party's leadership race. Behind me is Mr. Pierre Poilievre, who has made his way to Vancouver, BC. I'm standing in a gathering that took place at UBC. I'm told it's one of the largest ones that they've had in quite some time. We interviewed the students that came to see here to talk about what it's like to be a young conservative and what they'd like to see from Mr. Poilievre if he is to win this race. One of the common things that came up was about his goal to make Canada one of the blockchain capitals of the world. So if he'll take a question from us, we're going to ask him to elaborate a little bit more on that. But first, let's hear from the students. We have some students from Simon Fraser University. Now, what's it like being a conservative in Canada these days? A young conservative.
Yeah, so I'm an international student from Zimbabwe, so it's more of a learning curve for me, and being here in Canada and just learning about everything, just education, because I didn't know more of politics until I came here. So it's pretty much good to be exposed to it, and yeah.
I find it a little hard to be able to speak freely, especially on a campus that I would assume values free speech in their classrooms, and I feel that places like this allow for more freedom of expression.
Well, there's definitely a prevailing campus culture of hostility towards non-left views, especially since we are in one of the most liberal city in Canada, and we do have a large population of people who have grown up extremely wealthy, and they have no idea what the average Canadian has lived through in their life. No concept of what it is like for rural Canadians. They don't understand the impacts that energy decisions, for example, have on them because they'll live in their bougie Vancouver apartments, right? And I think that kind of translates into academics here, as it's not so much that you're banned from saying it, but it's almost social exclusion if you progress your views in public. And so I think it's definitely a culture of if I express my views, am I going to be shunned?
Being on university campuses and being conservative definitely makes you feel like a minority, but it's just so amazing to be able to come here today and see so many people who just share the same thoughts and opinions and be able to have conversation and see Pierre as well, so we're happy to be here.
I think it's better than what it is in the States, but still it's a bit tough. Yeah, I mean, I say this. The guy who's done blackface 4 times shouldn't be the guy championing against racism, right? He's pulled a con on all the young liberals.
Now, what is a promise you would like to see or hear from Mr. Poilievre if he becomes the leader of the Conservative Party?
Well, what he said about defunding the CBC sounds quite promising, especially because, I don't see a lot of their, company supporting free speech, ideology. And so I think that's going to be an important thing moving forward for Canada.
Actually, I just want him to keep his promises, do what he says. This is what we're lacking for all of our politicians. For example, Trudeau, he promised everything, including that he would respect the Charter of Canadian Rights and Freedom. And now he violated every single section.
I would definitely like to see how he is working around the whole blockchain technology, because he actually made a bet on he wants to make Bitcoin and Ethereum a legal tender here in Canada. So we are definitely looking forward to see how that's going to work out.
What do you think one of the common stereotypes about conservatives in Canada are, and what's the reality of that?
So the big one when I was young, we used to think that anyone who was a conservative didn't care about poor people. I grew up really poor, so for that reason I was liberal when I was really young. But I mean, if you just look at what's happening in our country, who's really fighting for the average working person? Is it the guy who's letting gas go to $220, the average house $880,000? I mean, just think about it, right? The notion that you have to be a millionaire just to have a place to put your head down at night, is that the guy fighting for the poor person or the guy who wants to bring down house prices?
It's really important to know what your values are and to know what you stand for. And personally, my convictions are, standing up for the rights and freedom for every Canadian citizen to be able to choose what's best for them and themselves. And it's so cool to see a leader in the very same room as me who's advocating for those very same things.
All right, this is Sally with the UBC Conservatives. Now, you helped organize this event. How did it all come together?
Yes, I did. So I am president of the UBC Conservatives Club. We are one of the biggest political clubs on campus, and then I know that one of the really big things we want to do for members is have MPs and leadership candidates come out and speak to students, because we are the next generation, and I want people to, MPs to hear their voices. So I got into contact with leadership teams, Pierre's included, and then Pierre loves the youth crowd. He wants to speak with them, so he has agreed to come out, and we've got a really big crowd out here today, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and you were saying that it's one of the biggest turnouts you have. Is that due to COVID-19 or something else?
Well, it's just on campus at UBC, I find that people are not as engaged in politics at all. We're biggest political club. People are more focused on school and their courses. So this is the biggest event of any club politically on campus in the last 5 years. It's not due to COVID. It's just due to the passiveness, I think, a little bit of the campus. So we're really hoping with this event to really rile up people interested in politics and campus politics that want to get their voices heard, and then be the first of many events to come on campus.
Great. What do you think is the stereotype that some people who are not conservative may have about conservatives in Canada?
Well, I think people would think that, I've heard words like conservatives are crazies, we're, anti-vax, and they think we're not educated, which is not true, by the way. There is more conservative youth, actually, on campus. It's just people are very quiet about their views, and this is mostly due to, I believe, them feeling that they will be called out on, or, maybe even seen, in a maybe not a good light if they do have their views heard. And it's really great to see all these people, come out, as we can say, closeted conservatives on campus, and come out and talk to them.
If Mr. Poilievre was to become the leader of the Conservatives, what's one promise you would like to see him give for Canadians?
Well, I think affordable housing. That is a really important thing for us students about to graduate. I want to own my own home. I don't want to live on debt my whole life. And also, I think we should defund the CBC. We should really get real news out there and not rely on the government to tell us everything.
Hey guys, we can do a quick photo, but we really don't have a lot of time. Well, he's asking a question, and so are the guy before him and the guy before him.
I'm a voter as well. Drea from Rebel News.
Good to see you.
Good.
Thank you very much for coming.
I lined up. I'm hoping I can ask you just a super quick question.
Yeah, real quick. The only thing is we are a little late, but I'd be happy to
It'll be
answer
just as quick as everybody else who chatted
fire
with you.
away.
Yeah, so recently you said that you are for Canada becoming sort of the blockchain capital of the world.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if that means, and I got to read it because I'm learning with everyone else here, does that mean you support centralized digital currency like we're seeing with Canada that they're developing with MIT, like what we're seeing that just rolled out with China and their social credit system?
No, the opposite of that. So you have central bank digital currencies which are controlled by government. You have decentralized blockchain assets like Bitcoin, which are controlled by no one. Basically, Bitcoin is controlled by the majority of the processing power on the network, which is held by thousands of people all around the world who don't even know each other. And that's the genius of the blockchain and the genius of Bitcoin. No one controls it. The government doesn't control it. It is controlled by a protocol, and you can buy and sell it without any intermediary. Everything is updated on a public ledger that is verified by thousands of people around the world through their computer network. And those people don't even know each other, so they can't conspire to control it. And the genius of that is it takes control out of money away from politicians and bankers and potentially gives it to the people. So the central bank digital currency, on the other hand, is controlled by governments. That's what China is doing. China has banned Bitcoin. Well, they have brought in a central bank currency, digital currency, which is designed to control people. And I'm against having a central bank take deposits and take over the banking system. I think that the banking system should be private. The charter bank should be private, and the central bank's only role should be to keep inflation low and the financial system stable.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to smile for the camera
Okay.
as well.
Yes.
I'm a crypto trader.
Yes.
And so the thing that me and my friends love the most about it is that it's decentralized, obviously, and no one can touch it.
Yes.
So how do you get around all this? Like, I'm sure if you pay attention to the space, the scamming is unreal that's happening, especially in the NFT space. So how can you avoid centralization of a currency, but also regulate it? Because that's a fine line, right?
Well, first of all, there are scams in every part of life. There's scams using the American dollar, the British pound, the Canadian dollar. There's scams in the stock market, in the bond market. There's scams everywhere, right? So people have to, but we're not going to ban dollars and stocks and bonds just because there are some scam artists. The first thing is that people have to take personal responsibility. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Don't buy something you don't understand. And there is a lot of junk out there, just like a lot of when the stock markets first began, there was a lot of scams that happened there, but we would have been mistaken to shut down the entire stock market system. So, personally, I don't trust most of them, but I do believe in Bitcoin and related technologies. I'm not saying you should buy it or not buy it, but I do believe you should have the freedom to buy it because it gives people the ability, using their own brain power, to decide what to do with their own money. And if the government is going to ruin our cash like they're doing right now, then the people should have the right to look for other cash that the government can't control or manipulate. I believe in taking control of money away from bankers and politicians and giving it back to the people.
Me too. Yeah. So you're against CBDCs?
Yes.
All right, there you have it. More from Mr. Poilievre about what he means about his goals with having Canada being the next blockchain capital of the world. I'm Drea Humphrey for Rebel News. To find out more about what's happening in Canada's Conservative Party leadership race and to support our independent journalism at Rebel News that doesn't take a penny from the Trudeau government's media bailout, go to leadershipreports.ca.